Sensuality is an enriching experience that transcends mere physical touch. It invites us to explore openness and vulnerability, creating deeper connections with others. By engaging in mindful touch, we enhance our awareness of each other's desires and boundaries. This practice cultivates intimacy as it encourages honest communication and emotional safety. Each caress becomes a dialogue between bodies, transcending words and allowing us to connect on a profound level. Embracing the art of sensuality fosters trust, reigniting passion and curiosity in relationships. It's a journey of discovery, inviting us to celebrate the beauty of human connection through the transformative power of touch.
Hey everyone, welcome to Pleasure Principles. I'm your host Avik, and here we dive deep into what it means to live a life full of joy, satisfaction, and yes, pleasure. So today's episode is all about unlocking the emotional freedom to help us fully embrace the life's pleasures. So we have a special guest, Sophia Torrini. So welcome to the show, Sophia.
Oh, thank you for being here, for allowing me to be here.
Lovely, lovely. So, Sophia, before we start our conversation, I'd quickly love to introduce you to all of our listeners. Dear listeners, Sophia, who's not only a certified clinical EFT practitioner, but also a hacking reality specialist. So, after a journey from public health to alternative healing, she's here to share how we can break free from the stress, release emotional blocks, and shift our limiting beliefs to cultivate a life full of calm, confidence, and true fulfillment. So, if you're ready to discover how to let go of what's hiding or holding you back and experience life with a deeper sense of pleasure and peace, then stay tuned. So, welcome to the show again, Sophia.
Thank you again for having me here.
Lovely, lovely. So, Sophia, if you can share what emotional freedom means to you personally.
Sure, absolutely. So, a clinical emotional freedom technique is evidence-based EFT, and it's a combination of cognitive psychotherapy and tapping on the body's meridians point, the acupuncture points, without using needles. And the belief is that energetic blocks or emotions that have not been processed, or even trauma that hasn't been processed, blocks the flow of the energy system. As a result, it causes disease, but you're always on a flight or fight. And so now pleasure is not going to be on your top priority as well.
Yeah. Okay. So, EFT, which is emotional freedom techniques, so which is definitely sounds powerful. So, if you can break down how it works and why is it so effective?
Okay. So, let's discuss what limiting beliefs. So we have a limiting beliefs and sometimes low frequency emotions, and a lot of times trauma. When there's trauma, it does not get stored properly in the body, in the brain, I should say. It actually gets stored into the hippocampus, especially traumatic memories, as high definition. And they're not time-stamped properly. As a result, constantly throughout your day or whatever the situation is, you can often get triggered. All you need is a stimulus and a response, an image and an emotion. Whatever the stimulus or the image or the feeling is, you get triggered and the body gets activated. So that causes us to get stuck. And we hold on to these limiting beliefs and emotions that we have because we were not able to process us. So for example, for this podcast, if someone was taught that having pleasure is not the right thing, or divinity or God does not approve,
Hmm.
and you never release that belief system, or you never work on that belief system, you will go in life depriving yourself of the joy of intimacy and being close to another person. Perhaps the person had an unfortunate experience and there was some physical abuse.
Hmm.
That person is not going to be open to let their guard down, to become intimate. EFT comes so we can heal that experience, and now we can use the heart's discernment to find out if the person is right versus labeling everybody as bad to stay away. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. And okay, and like, how does emotional freedom relate to our experience of the pleasure in everyday life?
Okay, so when we release our emotions, we actually start getting back inside of our body. When we're traumatized, we're usually in our heads.
Hmm.
And as a result, in order for you to actually fully surrender or enjoy physical contact, you physically have to be housed in your body. And
Hmm.
most people don't do that. A lot of women often pretend that they had a good time because they're not really connecting in their body. And in order to achieve heightened sensual pleasure and intimacy and connection, it begins in the brain. And when we experience pleasure, the brain releases chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin. And dopamine is associated with the reward and motivation, and it makes us feel good. And everybody knows that oxytocin is the love hormone that fosters bonding and trust. But
Hmm.
if you're disconnected from your body, you're not going to be able to achieve that easily. And let's say you're having some challenges with your partner and you're seeing it only from your point of view. We usually project our anger or whatever emotion is to the outer world. And as a result, we create tension that does not allow us to connect to the other person. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Yes. And so some people may think that pleasure should come naturally without techniques. So what would you say to them?
Once you've worked on yourself,
Hmm.
pleasure does come naturally.
Hmm.
But we did not grow up to feel our emotions. So we do not technically, if we had learned to live inside of our body and we had learned to process our emotions, and the word emotion stands for energy in motion,
Hmm.
we would then easily connect to the other person, and then pleasure would be natural.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if we look around, we have highly stressed individuals, people who are constantly looping in their heads, people who are having anxiety and panic attacks. And our society also has experienced, at least in the US, I can speak, a lot of people who have been physically abused.
Yeah.
So it is those people that we're trying to help. And what society has told us, that being intimate or putting your guard down with your partner to enjoy pleasure is a bad thing. And religion has contributes to that, saying
Hmm.
it's not a good thing. If it was a bad thing, it wouldn't exist in this reality. The fact that we have it is a sign that it was given to us to enjoy.
Okay. Got it. And you mentioned the hacking reality. So if you can also explain how that ties into finding joy and fulfillment.
Absolutely. So I will address again the person who is traumatized, or not even traumatized, just has limiting beliefs that interfere with the natural pathways in the brain and making it challenging to enjoy intimate experiences. So let's take an example, a simple person who has not had any physical abuse, but I'm
Hmm.
sure you've seen them. They cannot sit still. They're always in their head and always addicted on their cell phone.
Hmm.
Those people or those individuals, for whatever reason, are not able to enjoy the moment. So and they have their own reasons why. Each person is different. So once we release those emotional challenges, now we can go back in time and rewrite new memories, because where are memories stored? They're stored between two neurons in the brain. So if we prune this unconscious automatic behavior that's being addicted to your cell phone or not being still, and then we rewrite it with a positive experience of enjoying intimacy, of being connected with the other person, able to open their heart, to feel love for their partner. Over a period of time, you're creating new neural pathways, and that's what hacking reality is.
Okay. And so let's talk about stress. Like, why do you think that stress blocks us from feeling pleasure?
Straightforward. The stress response, and usually there's 6 genes or even more for that, but the cortisol, when you are stressed, cortisol gets activated. And as a result, automatically the brain's survival mode, the flight or flight, gets activated. And even though there is no danger, right, like a tiger chasing you, it's been activated. That switch has been activated, and that blocks you this very moment of being fully present with your partner, or even enjoying your own sensual experiences. Because why? Because the brain is thinking there's danger coming, so all blood goes to the extremities to fight or flight, and as if it's thinking that there's a tiger, because the body cannot tell the difference if you are experiencing this by thought alone or it's a real life experience. So someone who is anxious or stressed is naturally, automatically, it's been programmed in us, is going to block their own pleasure.
Okay.
And that's where EFT comes handy. That's the miracle EFT, because now we can release the stress response at a physiological level. We reset the nervous system, so now they can feel comfortable to open the door to genuine connection and enjoyment. I mean, it's our birthright to be connected with someone.
True. And for the listeners who are skeptical about EFT, what would you say to convince them to try it?
I say to them, just come for 1 or 2 sessions, suspend your disbelief, and what you will see, even if you don't believe in it, you will feel calmer by the end of the session. And then that is the sign, because you're measuring your own stress level, because we measure the intensity of the emotion. And usually by the end, I'll ask them, from 1 to 10, how much is your stress level? And sometimes they'll tell me 20, then even though we said to 10, right? And then at the end of the session, I will say, how strong is your stress level on this particular subject we worked on? And they usually say, some people say 2, and some people say, oh, I'm not thinking about it anymore, it's over.
Got it. So, do you think that there are any downsides to focusing too much on the happiness and the pleasure?
Yes. If you get obsessed and you constantly need to have the sexual release, and it's not really bonding with the person, then it becomes addictive. And actually, for men especially, it depletes their energy.
Okay.
So, but if it's done under natural conditions, and it's not done because you're always avoiding something else, then there is no downside to it. If the focus, in other words, is just the sexual release, then it can become very addictive, because you're looking forward for this release,
Mm.
And then of course, because you're not connected to the person after the sexual release, there's an emptiness. So you want it again and again and again, and it becomes an addictive pattern. But if it's natural,
Yeah.
then the answer would be no.
Mm. Got it. Yeah. And like from your experience, what's one small practical way people can start unlocking emotional freedom today?
Meaning using EFT, one practical way, yeah, just acknowledging, connecting with their body, scanning their body, what is it that they're feeling, and perhaps just tapping without even any sentences in their body. So why do I ask them to tap? I'll give you an example. If you're being chased by a tiger,
Yeah.
You're not going to be tapping. There's no time to tap. So the actual process of physically tapping on the meridians tells the body you are safe. That's the most important part. So now the body can relax, and now you can connect to the body and release the energy that is coming through. All this energy wants is to be processed. It's not there to harm you. Most people think the emotions last forever. If we actually process them as bodily sensation, research has been done, several research has been done, and it tells that the bodily sensation only lasts 90 seconds. So now you're going to ask me, well, how come people are angry all day?
Yeah.
Because they're looping. So once the mind gets involved, it becomes a vicious cycle. The key here, and the ancient teachers taught us to connect, put our awareness and our breath on where the energy is, allow it to be there, and welcome it for its message, and on its own, then it will leave. It's just a signal telling you, you know what, there's something wrong here. It's like something beeping on your alarm saying that there's something wrong. Oh, so if you don't pay attention to the alarm is going to get louder and louder, and eventually the battery wears out. It doesn't ring anymore, or the alarm doesn't go off, but your body has been damaged, or the message, because it doesn't get hurt, and now you're headed for some stress or some situation.
Exactly. Wow, that's perfect. Lovely. Thank you so much for sharing this. So, thank you so much. As I mentioned, I mean, the today's journey into unlocking emotional freedom for the greater pleasure. It's really, really awesome. So, thank you again, Sophia, for sharing your wisdom and the tools with us. And I hope that this episode has inspired all the listeners to take a step toward letting go of stress and embracing the pleasures life has to offer. So, dear listeners, remember that it's all about tapping into that inner calm and confidence. So, thank you for tuning into Pleasure Principles. And if you have enjoyed today's episode, do not forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little more joy in their life. So, catch you next time. Thank you so much.